ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tahani Al-Agil. I'm from Saudi Aramco. It's my pleasure to introduce the next session entitled Smart Execution that is moderated by Mrs. Grace Al-Najjar. Mrs. Grace serves as Managing Director of Project Management Institute, Middle East, North Africa, and also lead Project Management Institute's Energy Working Group for a greater reach than and focus globally. Mrs. Grace has 25 years of global experience as an advisor, lead engineer, and program director. She's founded her own firm, Align Management Solution, in 2010. I would like to call on a stage Mrs. Grace Al-Najjar. We are also requesting the panelists, Dr. Stephen Mulvey and Mr. Ronald Cullen, Mr. Angelus Nicholas, and Mr. Arjun Mohan to come to the stage together, please. And also Mr. Nabil Naim, you're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, hello everyone. It's a true honor for me to be with you here today. I would like to extend a special thanks for the great work and the high standards that the PMI KSA chapter is setting in the region and globally. Special thanks to the member of our Global Executive Council, Saudi Aramco, our partner in making larger and bigger impact. Thanks for all the organizers. I'm very much delighted to moderate the session today, which help us delve further into the successful contribution of smart execution. So we're going to make sure to address the challenges of the disruption and gain actionable insights of the measure taken to close the gap and address all of the pain points. I'm very much delighted to be joined today by our esteemed panelists. Allow me to introduce them to you. Ronan, who's sitting next to me. Ronan is a civil and structural engineer by education. You are a certified project manager. You're originally from Ireland. You joined the Red Sea Development Company from Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, where you have spent 5 years as BIM director for a major contractor. He was based in Hong Kong for 16 years, where he had established a digital engineering consultancy whose focus is on transforming the way to design, construct, and maintain infrastructure and buildings. Ronan is passionate about digitalization of solutions in construction and improving collaboration. Welcome, Ronan. Arjun, you are the founder of and CEO of Tandred, an AI-powered platform for managing capital equipment across the energy, logistics, and construction sector. Tandred uses a combination of machine learning algorithm, sensors to collect data in real time to increase utilization, minimize emissions, and reduce accident. Arjun is an advisory council member to the Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy and an innovation partner to the World Economic Forum. Welcome, Arjun. Angelus, you're the founder of Sector, a technology-enabled service provider that gives project teams the visual truth of their progress. I like the word visual truth. You tell us more about it. You grew up in the construction camps of Saudi Arabia as an expat, and you have been around construction all over your life. Prior to founding Sector, you worked as a client rep for multinational banks and family offices in projects all over the world. You have been a global speaker, dedicated advocate of construction tech, where Sector totally serves project owners and contractors with a collective volume exceeding $10 billion annually. Dr. Stephen Mulvey, I think you're the director of the Construction Institute, and you have been introduced in the morning, and thanks for such insightful session. Mr. Nabil Naim, you are the VP of Digital Transformation Department and at Saudi Aramco. So there is no doubt that the worldwide technological advancements are bringing smarter, safer, and more effective ways to the way projects are executed, and more importantly, in enabling national visions ambitious plan to get executed, such as the Saudi Vision 2030, turning these ideas into reality. So the rise in efficiency and smartness of execution are crucial to mitigate the risks, to mitigate the delays, given all of the growing challenges, the trends we're living that were accelerated after COVID-19. For instance, as per our chairman insights in the morning, the PMI Pulse of the Profession found that 127 million are wasted in construction for every 1 billion investments due to poor performance. McKinsey also has found that construction projects typically take 20% longer to finish than scheduled and end up 80% over budget. So these challenges, like project delays, scope creep, and budget overrun, lack of interface management, lack of leadership in stakeholder engagement, speak to the importance of effective project management. So smartness is no longer an option. It is needed in the planning, in preventive engineering, in data-driven decisions, more importantly, in monitoring and execution, all of which are allowing the development of ambitious plans that were not thought of being possible before. And they are facilitating unprecedented reforms, unmatched potential like the one we're witnessing in the kingdom. And not only the kingdom is aiming at enhancing the quality of life, but to unlock huge opportunities for growth and investment and position Saudi Arabia to play a leading role in global development. Without any further ado, I would like to start, Ronan, with just your thoughts on the huge investments that are invested in technology. How do you see technology contributing to helping turning ideas into reality and accelerating successful results and outcomes?
First of all, good morning. This is flickering. Can you hear me? It's just my luck that the technology doesn't work as soon as I start to speak. Welcome to the Technology Conference. I believe that the investment in technology is an absolute must. The Red Sea have taken a very forward stance when it comes to investing in technology. So rather than relying on the supply chain to make the investments required to make these projects successful, we've taken a lead. So we're driving forward with a number of collaboration platforms and ensuring that our supply chain are trained, are given access to the platforms, and are working collaboratively. So in order to meet our goals for our sustainable development, our project development, and to open our hotels on time, we are leading the way by investing in technology and making it available to the partners that we have. And that allows us to have global design firms working across the world delivering our designs. It allows us to have local contractors accessing the information in real time. And it allows us to have security around our information. So we're investing heavily into technology to enable our supply chain to deliver our projects. And it's a very important part of the way we're delivering the work.
It's no surprise you're leading the next generation of luxury and tourism in the region. So Arjun, you're leading an AI platform. So we'd like to hear your thoughts on how technology advancements is helping accelerating effective execution. And what are your thoughts on the adoption of technology from a government's perspective, from readiness and plans to do so?
Well, when I think about technology, I take a very broad look at technology. So companies are using Zoom for managing international stakeholders. They're using wearables to manage manpower on site. They're using drones to monitor progress on projects. So I think technology is creeping into the construction sector and the project sector from all aspects and all angles. And the projects we're currently seeing, they're bigger than any project we've seen before. Like, these are some of the biggest projects humanity has ever done. And technology is not just something that's a nice to have, it's a requirement to actually execute on this effectively. In terms of adoption and governance, I think it's really important in every company there's a steward who brings this technology in and helps guide policies and workflows that can enable the maximum yield from this technology. I think that's going to be very critical for this tech to work in an old sector.
Thank you so much. Angelus, also I'd like to hear your thoughts on the contribution of technology, but this time from the perspective of bringing in together all of the stakeholders for better execution and better delivery.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having us. It's such a great honor to be here, and congratulations for organizing such a great event. I think the fact that people such as Ronan are here today from the Red Sea Development Company, I overheard somebody from Russian being here, Aramco's here. This shows that Saudi Arabia is already a step ahead from the rest of the world in bringing in the most important project stakeholders to influence the use of these solutions. Great investment has been taking place in the technologies, but walking around Saudi Arabia, you will see an even greater investment taking place, and that's in the cultural transformation of the minds of the people. And I think that's the most important thing, because the best teams, the teams that have transformed their minds and their ways of thinking, are the teams can make even the worst technologies work well. Now, of course, having a good technology helps, and in Saudi Arabia, it's always the best.
Effectively. Dr. Stephen, you are leading one of the largest institutes of the world. There is a big responsibility for advocacy from the perspective of your responsibility. Construction has been there, one of the oldest professions, and we have been doing great. Why technology is no longer an option for technology, and where are we going envisioning the future of the profession?
Oh, here it is. Well, no. Sorry, experiencing technical difficulties. Yeah, I think it's an interesting time to be in this. Technology, I think of it at several different levels. One is just around the work process. I think we have the opportunity and the need globally to do 2 to 3 to 4 times as many capital projects as we've ever done before. We don't have enough people, so we have to leverage technology to be able to do that. And I think work instructions and visualization, a lot of things with the digital twin. I also think in the process industry, it's very interesting. There's something called process intensification. We've realized that the technical deliverable doesn't match up very well with the business case a lot of times. People get even when they can deliver on time and on budget, they get the scope and the capacity wrong. We have projects that are built twice as too large. And so one of the things that we found was building a much smaller project and then being able to repeat it multiple times is a real strategy for this industry. So there's a number of different and new ways of looking at things. I think also being a little more agile in the delivery, and then that's enabled by the digital twin and some of the new technologies that we have in the industry. Can't all just be sequential. It takes too long. Big government projects, I worked on these in Norway, for example. It took 12 years from idea till the project was complete. We were able to cut that in half down to 6 years. And a lot of it is just different management, but again, enabled by technology. So we can make big gains. I think we're just at the right point in time for that to happen.
Thank you so much. Mr. Nabil, you are leading a very critical unit at Saudi Aramco. How do you see digital transformation adding more excellence to the project inside Saudi Aramco? How is it accelerating the successful outcome and more alignment with your strategy?
In Saudi Aramco, digital transformation strategy has been developed since 2017. And what really accelerated the deployment of digital transformation is really the COVID. If you look at the way we managed having every single barrel delivered and all the project management and facilities we are building, it was not really majorly impacted because of the way we accelerated deployment of technology to help us, from connection through Zoom or even creating e-marketplaces to make sure that we manage the supply chain very effectively. So for Aramco, started this early on before the COVID, And one of the things that is extremely important for the digital is really linked to the business. I'm very happy today to see that, project management is leading the way in digital transformation. It's not the digital transformation organization or IT. It's really business-driven program. When I heard Tony's speech, and he's really talking about what are the issues and how digitally support, it's really the people that understand the project life cycle, from the planning all the way to execution with different stakeholders, and because you will have different players along the project life cycle. And and I think the biggest challenge that we'll be facing, even in Saudi Aramco, how we make sure that the whole ecosystem is with you. If Saudi Aramco is really the maturity of digitally mature organization, if your suppliers are not as well at the same maturity, you will not be able to deliver on things related to supply chain or the execution or the contractor. So I think part of, and I know Abdul Karim Al-Ghamdi is trying to elevate, the understanding and the collaboration between the whole ecosystem that's going to support, especially mega projects. So first of all, it's business-led. Second is really the collaboration and working, among all the stakeholders, which is extremely, extremely important. One last point is about the mindset about digital transformation. There are two things that we think about it. First of all, how to make sure that the workers and the project management are digitally enabled with tools and to monitor, let's say, during the construction, the safety, or also bring digital workers that support the project management team, for example. One exercise that was done, just to give you a feel of what project management is thinking about using AI for safety. So they took, and with the help of digital transformation, all the safety, what they call job safety analysis, and also all the incidents that happened and near misses, and we created our own model using AI in order to teach the model what are the risks and how do you really help the project manager to identify risk before it happens. And now we are in the process of integrating it with also computer vision. So you take this risk and the mitigation and integrate it where it will be fully automated that identify the risk and notify as well the project management. So we are taking it, but we cannot do it without the contractors with us. And this is something very important, I think, that will have to be addressed, in my opinion, in this conference.
So much. It's amazing to hear from a leader of digital transformation the importance and evidence of integrating. So technology, it's not about technology, it's an integration between people, processes, system, and all of stakeholders. So this brings me to another question when it comes to the technology disruption and the huge investments associating with that. Every organization is thinking about the ROI. What's the weighting between cost and benefit analysis? So I'd like to hear from your thoughts on how to properly weight the cost and benefit when it comes to digital and technology disruption in organization.
So I think in preparation for the conference, we've had a discussion on this already. It's a very difficult thing to measure an ROI when you're investing into software systems and development. The way we look at it is we're investing into the people in our business. So we call it investing in humanity. So we're developing graduate programs, we're developing skills programs, we're developing the industry with us, so we're trying to bring along the contractors that we're working with, we're trying to develop skills in the consultants we're working with. And I may be at risk of tasking myself with developing an ROI if my CEO is listening to this, but at the moment we're driven by the goals of the 2030 vision in terms of what we have to develop, the speed we have to develop at, and that's how we're going to get measured. That's going to be our return on investment. But we all know in our business that unless we invest in the training, the skills development, and even to a certain extent just a broad understanding of what technology means to our business and our supply chain, we will get the ROI. But I will never be able to give you a number and say we spent this and we received this in return. But we know it's there, but it's hard to quantify.
Arjun, yes. If you can also touch on the human-centered approach, change management, and new ways of working, combined with the investment in technology for better ROI.
Well, I want to touch on two things. One is the ROI when you're implementing tech. You know, when you look at tech, there's one of three benefits. Either it's going to reduce cost, is going to earn you more revenue, or it's making someone's life better. And when it comes to the third point, I agree with Ronan, it's going to be really difficult to understand the ROI on tech. But I think very few solutions are all or nothing solutions. Somebody mentioned it's about a mindset, and I think that's really important. You need to have a mindset to experiment with different tech solutions in a pilot stage or in an experimentative environment so that you can see if it actually is going to benefit your organization. And that's a really quick and easy way to assess ROI for your specific organization. Is it going to reduce cost, increase revenue, or make someone's life better? When it comes to the human-centered approach, I think tech is half the picture. The rest of the picture is going to be how humans interact and capitalize on that technology. So you need to have departments or people responsible in your company who are going to take that data and have a positive feedback loop where they actually do actions based on the tech. And I think that's a critical part of making any tech solution viable or feasible for an organization. It's just not you buy it and you leave it, but you buy it, then you adopt it, and then you figure out what is the best way to use it to increase ROI for your company.
Insightful. Angel, you want to add any thoughts on the ROI investments combined with a proper approach, human-centered and change management?
Yeah, I would largely agree with Arjun and Ronan on their approach, right? There's ROI that's measurable and there's ROI that's very hard to measure. Construction technologists, for instance, do have some pretty hard numbers that they can give you. 50% savings in travel costs, for instance, an hour saved per engineer per day, and a month shaved off of a 12-month schedule. I mean, these are significant numbers. The way to achieve those, we found, is to tackle the technologies on the field. That's typically where construction technology fails, the moment it gets to the field, because it's complex and it's difficult, and solutions that sort of do it all in the office don't do that much in the field. Now, as to the ROI that's hard to measure, how can you measure if a worker is less stressed, for instance, goes home happier because they feel that they're part of a cooler movement, a cooler organization. They're seeing tablets and phones everywhere now, laser scans and reality capture tools. I think I'll touch upon the point that Ronan made. I think the ROI there is achieving Vision 2030, and there's really no other way of seeing that.
Thank you so much. Dr. Stephen, throughout your experience working with that organization, so how are you working together to justify these ROI in technology, in investments, and how are you helping with a proper approach and successful outcomes?
So I think the key part of this is that, like I mentioned before, there's so much waste that's in the capital projects for engineering and construction. One of the ways that we do this is by measuring it. So we can measure that. Typical direct work percentages on construction projects range from 25 to 40%. Even if it's at 40%, 60% of a craft professional's time is being wasted. So what we can do is, if we measure it, then we can start to improve that. I think the ROI is pretty infinite at this point. I mean, the payback on some of these things is 20 to 1. For every $1 you invest in it, you get $20 back. Who wouldn't make that investment? But you've got to be pretty selective in what part of the project that you're attacking. And I think attacking the waste, especially around this craft productivity issue, has been where the industry has been able to make some big gains. So that's kind of what we do. We approach it by getting the data, and we have tons of data in this industry that goes completely unused. It's not shareable, and so it's hard to get insights. It's hard to use machine learning. It's hard to do all of those things if we don't have a more collaborative approach. So that's the other part of it. It's the power skills. I won't say soft skills anymore, but the power skills of people actually learning to work together in an integrated and collaborative way, using that data, leveraging that to reduce the waste. I think that's really the main approach.
Thank you so much. Mr. Nabil, what success look like for Saudi Aramco when it comes to investing in technology and the disruption? So how are you measuring success, the transition challenges that the technology disruption entails, and what's your thought on any human-centered approach to combine and lead to a success?
I will not repeat what has been mentioned. I really agree with the importance of technology in project management life cycle. But I'll talk about the way we see in Saudi Aramco, and working very closely with project management, with ITs, how to really help in the liberalization of the data. So if you look at what's really happening right now, that when you look at the project life cycle, you'll find like silos, the infrastructure of different players. It's very difficult to share knowledge. And I'll give one simple example, just to share how can we have continuous engineering to reduce even the cost of the project. Imagine if we do, let's say, the offshore platforms as an example. If you look at the amount of data we collect, during the fabrication, the amount of inspection we do in the wells or whatever, and then you take it all the way to construction, you do exactly the same thing. And then you take it to during the operation, and you continue to take similar data. Imagine if you integrate the data of just a simple platform. What will be the impact of the design? Probably the steel structure design probably more efficient, but at the same time, the extension of the life cycle of that platform will also can be extended based on data. So the issue of sharing data and having integrated infrastructure, especially with the hyperclouders are coming in Saudi Arabia, I think this is something that Saudi Aramco is taking a leadership. And you know about investment in Google, in order hopefully project management will have a hub for integrating the whole ecosystem when it comes to project life cycle. I think this is like number one in our opinion. Once we do it, a lot can really be done, and all the silos can be eliminated. And exactly what you mentioned, the silos, and there are a lot of inefficiencies in the whole ecosystem. You cannot be efficient in Saudi Aramco without having all the players also efficient with you. And hopefully with the big integration of the data through the hypercloud investment that we are putting in place is going to make a disruption, in our opinion, the way we will be executing projects in the future.
Hello. We all agree that people are at the heart of the technological disruption. You all touched on that. I'd like to elaborate more on the talent gap. So we're getting a new generation. We're not sure whether the curriculum of engineering is really mapped to the future. And we still have engineers who have been there for 10 years and will continue for another 10 years. They're not going to all retire. So how are you coping with the advancements needed of technology, the complexity, and the new generation, the old one? So how are you closing the gap, and how are you collaborating with associations like PMI, CII to close that gap? Any experience on that, please?
At the risk of sounding old, I think Dr. Rashid's been at this for 25 years. I've been at this for 25 years as well. In terms of the graduates coming in now, technology is natural to them. They come with their TikTok, they come with their Instagram. They want to see technology. If we're not using technology, they're going to go somewhere else. So we need to be technologically advanced just to keep the talent in our industry, in our sector. In terms of guys like me who've been around the circuit too long, the last 2 years has taught us all one valuable lesson. We all have to be technologically savvy. I've been promoting technology for 20 years, but the people of my generation have all suddenly become Zoom experts, and they can do tricks with technology they couldn't do 2 years ago. So if put in a position where you have to use technology, it comes naturally. So for us, it's not about the technology. For us, it's about asking the kind of questions that Aramco asking. How do we make the projects more sustainable? In our case, how do we achieve our goal of 30% regeneration of our environment? We're not here to sustain our environment, we're here to regenerate it. What technologies do we need to achieve those goals? Some of them exist, some of them have not even been invented. So for us, we look at it from a problem. What is the problem that we're trying to solve? And what technology can we actually rely on to get us to that goal? So we're taking a problem-centric approach, and we're bringing the organization with us, whether they're in their 20s or whether they're in their 50s. But everybody's coming along for the journey, so it's quite exciting.
Excellent, it is. Arjun, what's your thought on the talent, closing the talent gap, and the mix of skill set between people who have been there for a long time and the new generation?
Technology keeps changing, right? So you might have graduated from MIT 10 years ago, but your skills in engineering or software engineering is quite irrelevant today, because as a tech company, we're hiring engineers all the time, and we look for specific languages that they code in, but those languages even change every 2 years, right? So I think the importance of organizations like PMI or even online courses like Coursera and Udemy cannot be underscored and underlined enough. They're extremely, extremely important for people to stay relevant in the workplace and contribute to what is most important to a company. And continuing education can take the form of something formal like PMI or Coursera, but it could also be informal. You have YouTube, you have all these DIY videos online where people are able to educate and teach themselves new skills. And at least in our company, Intended, we highly, highly encourage people to do this continued education on their own time, and then we try and reward them in some shape or form to keep them engaged and keep encouraging this behavior.
Angelus, the experience of your clients on what are the best practices on closing the talent gap and coping with the advancement of technology and the needed power skills?
Yeah. Grace, I think this is a very important question. And the reason is that this is largely a project-based, project-approached industry, right? We build these bespoke projects, we move into them, a team is set up, the team is broken up. Once the project is completed, they move to the next project and the knowledge is lost. And there's really two ways that we see that this knowledge is transferred and the gap is closed. First is with conferences such as this one. And I think that here in Saudi Arabia, both private institutions and governmental institutions are doing a great job. The construction technology industry really feels like a big family where we can all learn from each other. And really the second way is with technology itself. There are solutions out there today that help you automate building that knowledge base, organizing it for you. Going back to what Dr. Malva said earlier, how do we find what we're looking for really fast? Being able to touch upon those archives on the press of a button, and being able to take our learnings from one project and move it on to the next one. I think those are the two major ways.
Thank you so much. Dr. Stephen, PMI, CII, and other key players, we have researched the market. We looked and we surveyed, PMI surveyed more than 20,000 PMPs in the construction industry, and all of them agreed that there are some power skill set like leadership, like interface management, scope change management, and the others that are still missing. Despite the fact that we are all engineers and there are lots of micro-cert PMPs, but yet we're still not meeting the needs or closing the gap of the pain points. And unfortunately, still the project in construction are very much delayed. So what's going on, and how do you see the 8 modules that PMI contributed with CII, and thanks to Saudi Aramco, to be involved from the ideation till design till testing? How do you see this helping organization and leaders to close the gap and making sure that there is an integration between engineering and program management, so we have one skill set where we make sure that it's a real construction professional inbuilt environment?
It's a great point. I think the main point of those courses and really anything that we should be doing in the project world is lowering the barrier to entry. Engineering projects by its nature, this idea of them being bespoke, and I think we need to be smarter about that. So the 7 courses lower the barrier to entry for people to quickly understand these important concepts. There's 7 of them, 7 courses. A lot of effort was taken to do the e-learning, so we lower the barrier to entry. This doesn't have to be super confusing things. And so I think education is a key part of this. I'll also talk about 2 things. One is on engineering. Design reuse is a huge opportunity for this industry, and we don't do that. If you think about your favorite automobile, say the Porsche 911, that car only changes about 4% per year. It just gets a little bit better each year, but they start with a good design. They don't start from a blank sheet of paper. They continue to iterate and make that car even better every single year. And we need to have design libraries. We actually call that an interim product database. So engineering can be a lot more efficient. And then on the construction side, lowering the barrier to entry, I think it comes down to work instructions. One of my goals is to build projects with no drawings. And so you go right from the digital twin right into work instructions. Now, they do this at Airbus with the safety glasses. They have mixed reality. They project a 3D image of the next part to be assembled in the aircraft. And we can do exactly the same thing in construction. We're already wearing safety glasses. So what you can do is you don't have to have somebody that you spend 18 months training to be certified journeyman. What you can do is over time build that experience by having these people experience these assembly sequences. So I think that's how we can really leverage technology with people. But don't forget about on the project management side. Don't forget on the project management side about these new courses, because I think they're really, really phenomenal.
Thank you so much. Mr. Nabil, I know that Saudi Aramco is investing hugely in the people. So engineering, the microcert, the leadership. Are you still facing skills gap inside Saudi Aramco? And if so, what's the best way to link the investment in training to results and to execution and to learning outcomes, so we close every pain points and we have no longer project taking 20% more time and 80% more budget?
Saudi Aramco, when you talk about a program like upskilling program and retraining and closing the gaps, Aramco has the advantage of the size. And we have the advantage of, if we are building a refinery somewhere, we can, send them to either our local refineries, because we have almost all the different, sizes of refining, but also different technologies. So we do this extremely well, in our opinion. I think, in addition to Saudi Aramco, the upskilling program and even implementing technology, part of our design process is how do you really pass this to the suppliers and the engineering firms. So we do have probably, in my opinion, maybe Abdul Karim can answer this better, is the gap of the engineers that will work with us during the engineering and the design, because there will be a shortage of talents, especially for a specific, let's say for a specific project. Let's talk about hydrogen-related projects. Do we really have a global pool of subject matter experts in this field? And how do you really tap into the subject matter experts that probably available in different parts of the world? So what we do, in addition to training our own engineering or the program managers about this hydrogen, but also we would like to tap into talents outside, and this could be some of the areas that we face challenges, in my opinion.
Final question. I would like to hear from each of my panelists. How do you envision the role of the kingdom? We know that the kingdom is launching amazing initiatives. The latest one were SGI, the Future Invest, the PIF Vision. So how do you see the kingdom continuing to lead in the region when it comes to technological advancements and breakthrough when it comes to large-scale development and innovation?
So I can only answer that as a foreigner in a foreign land. I've been here for 9 months, and the way I'll answer that question is very simple. Before I came to Saudi Arabia, I had a perception of what it was like living in the kingdom, and since I've been here, that perception has been torn asunder. So it is a fantastic place to live, and the Vision 2030 and the way that we're going about Vision 2030, we are going to come up with solutions, we're going to come up with innovations, we're going to come up with projects that people are going to stand back and going, wow, this is the benchmark, this is the level we have to get to, whether it's in tourism, whether it's in housing, whether it's in infrastructure development. By Vision 2030 alone, Saudi Arabia is going to drive forward a number of innovations across a number of sectors, and it's going to be a lot of fun to participate in. So personally, I'm looking forward to the next 5-10 years because it's going to be a very exciting time.
You're helping diversification of sector with tourism, so amazing. Arjun, any other thoughts on the future also envisioned by the kingdom? What more can be done?
Well, you know, Vision 2030 is a term that captures so many projects. And all the projects are quite complex, quite large. And what's really interesting is humanity hasn't actually undertaken any projects of this type before. So not only is Vision 2030 trying to execute on new types of projects, they're also trying to execute it in a different way, right? There is this interest in doing it in a cutting edge way. There is an interest in investing in tech, in investing in novel methods. So I feel like new projects and new execution models can, you're going to learn a lot from this, and you're going to inspire the rest of the world and create role models of success in terms of execution or projects for them to look at and follow the steps of Vision 2030.
Also, Angelus, your final thoughts on the role of the kingdom investing in technology and smartness for better execution.
Yeah, we were looking over with my partner, we were looking at the number of meetings we held this year, and now it's end of the year. We've spoken with over 200 general contractors, project owners, investors from Europe and the Middle East. You know, the projects that we speak to in the Middle East, they always challenge us in a different way. And I think the reason is that these projects are uniquely designed and to be uniquely executed, and they are a first time. So I think it's important for both the projects here to realize what a grand spotlight they have on them. For instance, taking a project such as NEOM on that scale, in this weather, with these engineering challenges, if a technology works well here, it's going to work well anywhere. And I think that's the role that the kingdom has to play, both in the execution of the projects as well as the development of these technologies.
We know you're partnering closely with Saudi Aramco, and you have lots of collaboration with the kingdom. So how do you see the kingdom continue to shape the future of technology and large developments?
Yeah, I'm really encouraged by what's happening here. I think there's a boldness to the Vision 2030. I think there's a boldness to the way projects are executed here in the kingdom. I think about Sadara as the largest chemical plant ever built in a single phase anywhere in the world. And to do that, in this century, it's not being done anywhere else. And I think that boldness is really going to pay off. There's a real hesitancy in a lot of the companies that we work with right now to invest right now. And I'm thinking about traditional oil and gas companies, international oil companies. They're so afraid to invest in a traditional oil and gas project because they're thinking like, well, maybe we should do a wind power or some kind of other project, that they're just in analysis paralysis right now. So the fact that while this is going on and the pandemic, that Saudi Arabia is moving forward with the Vision 2030 and in doing this kind of investment, I think it's really, really a great thing. And I'm very impressed by it, actually. And we were even having a conversation a little earlier about how these projects are even set up it's not a traditional owner. You have somebody has an idea, somebody's making the investment, someone else is going to operate it. This is the vision of the future, is not to be so totally vertically integrated, but actually have groups of specialist players figuring out how to work together. So I think this is something that the world is going to pay a lot of attention to going forward.
Thank you so much. So my question is to you twofold. The role of Saudi Aramco, which is shaping not only the kingdom, but the world with technology and innovation and the world of energy and more. So what's the role of Saudi Aramco and the kingdom?
You know, we are in Saudi Aramco, we are really reaping the benefits of the Vision 2030. You know, Saudi Arabia being the influential regional hub, being the investment hub, and also the industrial and logistical hub of the future. So all these programs will make Aramco much more enabled to do things locally. And we've seen, all the, issues related to upcake incident as an example. In no time, Saudi Aramco came back to normal because of all the manufacturing and all the support comes from the kingdom. So we are in Saudi Aramco, we are benefiting from all the great things that's happening with Vision 2030. When we look at the investment in technology, typically we have our offices, global offices that they bring and they originate all these technologies. Now the investors are coming to Saudi Arabia. They are setting facilities in Saudi Arabia. So Aramco is, I still remember, some of the very old subject matter experts. They say, look, very difficult. We have to have subject matter experts within Saudi Aramco to solve specific problems. Why? Because we don't have the manufacturing in Saudi Arabia. Now, this is going to make even Saudi Aramco much more efficient. All the engineering firms, all the manufacturers will set up their own service centers in the country, and they are. So Vision 2030 is definitely helping Saudi Aramco to create what we say even Aramco 2.0 with all the technologies and digital transformation that we are focusing on.
Thank you. Such an insightful thought leadership session, I would call it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Grace. Thank you so much, Grace and panelists, for the informative session.